This model is a bit unusual. It's a Bucher Schörling road sweeper mounted on an MAN TGS chassis. Even though it's a generic model, not in an operator's livery, it comes in a plain Conrad branded box, rather than one branded by the machine maker, so this is the collector edition of the model. In the box it's protected by Conrad's usual foam rubber and is a bag of small parts. As usual for a Conrad truck, you have to start with a bit of knife work and free up the various mirrors and aerials. And once they're all separated, you can press the various parts into the preformed holes that are in the cab. They're a reasonable fit, but if they do drop out, the solution is to put them back in again. This is a right-hand drive truck, although the mirror arrangement is for a left-hand drive. And for the mirror on this side, it's best to pre-assemble it and then attach it to the cab. The plastic on these mirrors is a little bit soft, so you might need to fiddle about with it to get it into place. And once it's done, the only thing left is to attach the roof aerial, and that's best put in place using a pair of tweezers. Once it's in, you can just get it straightened up to how you want it. The chassis on this model is complicated because of all the sweeping equipment, but in turn it means the transmission is simplified, so there's no drive shaft to the rear axle. But it's good to see the real brushes that have been used for the sweepers. The tyres are all of the same type, but at least the wheels are of Conrad's smart design. The MAN cab looks fairly plain in the generic livery, and there's no number plate. Behind the cab, the exhaust pipe is modelled in metal with other parts in plastic. One interesting detail is the channel sweeper. It's all modelled in plastic, but the brush looks great. The big tank on top is where all the rubbish is kept, and it's called the hopper. It's modelled in metal with a couple of beacon lights and sharp graphics. At the back the lights are painted, but the big fat wander hose looks good. And above that there's a gantry modelled in plastic which would normally support the hose, but it's not functioning on this model. Sometimes these CranesEtcTV guys just want to suck the life out of everything. Putting the truck out on the CranesEtcTV sweeping circuit, and it gives a nice smooth ride. There's movement in the rear axle which approximates to suspension. And at the front there's working steering, and it's very good because you can get a huge range of movement, so it steers sharply. Looking back underneath, the main sweeping brush can be rotated, and the two channel brushes can be rotated also, but they're a little bit stiff. You can pull out the brushes so they can accurately sweep along the curb. And they're also adjustable up and down on the extendable hoses. So it's really quite nice the way Conrad have engineered this to make a realistic looking model. It also completely folds in for normal driving. Another feature of the model is that the hopper can be tilted. It's very stiff on the review model, and you have to be careful not to pull it out too far because otherwise the piston will pull out of the ram jacket. Underneath the hopper is a reasonable engine. At the back you can unhook the big suction hose. And if this was a 3D video, that hose would come right out of the screen and suck the eyes from your head. If you have still got eyes, then you can see that the hose clips right back into position. One final test to do on the model is will it actually sweep? So let's run a test with some giant scale rice, and yep, it sweeps pretty well. So overall this is an interesting and unusual model by Conrad. It's made to their usual standards, so it's strong and robust, and it's got some interesting features. It looks nice enough, and it would be even better in a company colour scheme, but even so there's enough to highly recommend it.